I worked the night shift at a remote Air Force base a few months ago. I was 32 years old, excited and nervous. I needed the extra hours after my husband lost his job. The first nights were quiet, just humming machines and wind outside. It was eerie, but I told myself I could handle this. As I set up my tools in the hangar, the air felt stale. My heart raced, but I thought it was just nerves. I focused on the aircraft in front of me. It was routine work, something I liked. Then I heard it. A sharp clang echoed through the hangar, like someone was working on a plane. I looked around, but I didn't see anyone. I thought maybe a coworker had come in. I shrugged it off and got back to work. But the clangs continued, becoming more erratic with each passing night. I felt a chill in the air that I couldn't explain. I glanced around, my skin prickling. I thought about calling someone, but I didn't want to sound paranoid. After all, I was alone in the vast hangar, just me and the machines. As the nights went by, the noises changed. They turned from clinks and clatters into something different, whispers. I couldn't make out the words, but it unsettled me. I began to notice tools going missing. One night, I couldn't find a wrench I was sure I left on the bench. I searched everywhere, my heart pounding. I felt like someone was watching. I told myself it was just the dark playing tricks. Then I caught a glimpse of something. A shadow. Something in the corner of my eye. I turned my head, and there was nothing there. Just the dim light casting shapes across the hangar. I tried to shake it off, but every night felt heavier than the last. One evening, the whispers became clearer. It felt like they carried a name, calling out to me. My voice trembled as I said, "Hello?" But I only heard my own echo. I was scared. I could feel my heart racing in my chest. Each moment stretched longer, filled with dread. I didn't know what was happening. That night, everything changed. I turned around suddenly, feeling a chill race down my spine. I swear I saw a figure standing behind me. I blinked, and it was gone. Just the cold hangar and my tools scattered across the bench. My breath hitched in my throat. I tried to shake it off, but it felt real. Each night grew worse. The air thickened, and I could almost feel the whispers crawling around me. They were always just out of reach, taunting me. My recording of the noises came back empty, only silence. I still question what I experienced. There were shadows following me? Or maybe it was just exhaustion and stress messing with my mind. Was I unraveling? I didn't know how to find the truth. I can still hear those whispers, calling. Coming in the dark. No matter where I go, a part of me feels like it's waiting in the shadows. The following night, I arrived at the hangar with a knot forming in my stomach. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air tasted stale again, thick and heavy, like a storm was brewing. I debated staying in the car, but I forced myself to brave the hangar. I needed the money. As I set up my tools, I noticed my flashlight flickered briefly. That was new. I tightened the grip on it, thinking maybe I was imagining things. After a few minutes, it gave out completely. I cursed under my breath. If only a little flickering could be my worst issue. I walked towards the breaker box, hoping a simple reset would resolve everything. But when I got there, another clang rang out from behind me. The sound echoed through the hangar, piercing through the stillness. I turned quickly, heart pounding. There was nothing again, just shadows draping the corners of the room. I wanted to convince myself it was a rodent or something equally mundane. I stepped back to the bench, and that's when I noticed it. A small note was lying atop my tools, written in shaky letters I didn't recognize. Leave before it's too late. My skin prickled, and I glanced around, searching for someone, anyone. How could a note just appear? I felt nauseous. I forced myself to breathe slowly. It was just a prank, I told myself. Maybe some kids thinking they were clever. But deep down, I felt it. a dread that settled heavily in my chest. I glanced around the empty hangar again. It felt impossibly quiet, as if the machines were holding their breath. The whispers returned then, louder this time. They swirled around me like a swarm, insistent and demanding. I clutched the note tightly, feeling warmth seep away as fear tightened its grip. It was hard to focus on what they were saying, but the feeling of urgency was clear. I dared to call out, "Who are you?" The whispers fell into silence, but there was a shift in the air. Something was coming. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight as I felt the chill of a breeze rush by, even though all the doors were closed. I grabbed my tools, adrenaline flooding my system. I couldn't stay here any longer. As I turned to leave, I felt a presence, a rush of cold air that knocked the breath out of me. There, in my peripheral vision, a shadow moved. I spun around, but only the dim light illuminated the empty hangar. Panic surged in me, and I bolted for the exit. Just before I made it out, I heard it, a voice, clear as day, whispering my name. My heart dropped. I didn't stop to look back. I burst into the night, running toward my car, fumbling for the keys.
Raced with questions. What did they want? Who or what was in that hangar? I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line I shouldn't have. I had to find someone who would believe me. But as I gripped the steering wheel, the whispering resumed, more insistent than ever. It was just the beginning of something I couldn't explain, but I felt it. Whatever had followed me didn't intend to let go. The next day, I couldn't shake the lingering terror from the hangar. I barely slept, and now I felt like a ghost wandering through my day, even at work. I found myself distracted, barely able to concentrate. My mind raced back to the note, the whispers, the shadow. I needed answers. After my shift, I decided to talk to Frank. He was an old mechanic with years of experience and more stories than I could count. He could help me make sense of what happened. I found him in his cluttered garage, tinkering with an old engine. "Hey, Frank," I said hesitantly, "can we talk for a minute? I need some advice." His brow furrowed, sensing my unease. "Sure, kid, what's on your mind?" I recounted the tale of the hangar, omitting some of the more frantic details. But Frank was perceptive. He picked up on my anxiety. He listened without interrupting, his hands still in motion, tightening a bolt as I spoke. When I finished, he put down his tools and leaned back against the workbench. "That place has a bad reputation," he said slowly. "Some strange incidents have gone on there over the years. You're not the first one to feel off." The words hung in the air between us. "What do you mean? Like weird noises?" "Mostly that," he replied, crossing his arms. "But some say they've seen shadows, or felt cold drafts when there's no reason for it." "Shadows? Like people?" My voice trembled slightly. Frank shrugged. "I don't know about people, but some folks think it's something else, something that shouldn't be there." He paused, eyeing me cautiously. "You said you found a note." "Yeah, it said to leave before it's too late. What does that mean?" He shook his head, looking more serious than ever. "I can't explain what it is, but sometimes things get stirred up in places like that. I wouldn't go back if I were you." I felt a chill creep into my bones. "But I need the money, Frank. I can't just walk away." He sighed, a touch of pity in his gaze. "Just promise me you'll think about it. You don't want to mess with whatever might be lurking." I nodded, but part of me still felt drawn to that hangar. I couldn't ignore the pull. As I left Frank's garage, doubt nodded at me. I had hoped for clarity, but all I got was more questions. That night, I tossed and turned in bed. The images from the hangar replayed in my mind, and the whispers grew louder. I found myself staring at the ceiling, willing sleep to come, when my phone buzzed. A new message? I picked up my phone, and my heart dropped. It was from an unknown number. "You should go back. You can find out what happened." I gripped the phone tightly. How did they know? Who had sent me that? Then my heart raced even faster. There was a knock at my window. Someone was there. I froze, the weight of fear trapping me like a fly in a spider's web. I stared at the window, my breath catching in my throat. The knock came again, softer this time, but persistent. I forced myself to move. I crept towards the window, my heart pounding in my ears. I peered through the curtain, and to my surprise, I saw a figure standing outside. It was too dark to see their face, but their silhouette reminded me of the shadow from the hangar. Panic welled up inside me. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely above a hush. No answer. The figure shifted, and suddenly my instincts kicked in. Maybe I should just run, lock the door. But what if it was someone who needed help? I took a deep breath, steeling myself, and pulled the curtains aside just enough to get a clearer view. In that instant, the figure stepped into a beam of streetlight. It was a man. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. He wore a dark green jacket, much like those worn by the mechanics at the base. "Hey!" I called out, even though every fiber of my being screamed for me to stay silent. "What do you want?" "I'm here to help," he replied, his voice low. It sounded almost urgent. "You need to listen to me." His words pierced through the fog of anxiety. I was torn. Should I let him in? What if he was a threat? But the shrill warning from that note echoed in my mind. Could he know something about it? "What do you know?" I asked, trying to sound tougher than I felt. "There's a reason why you found that note," he said, glancing nervously around. "And there's a reason why you heard the whispers. I can explain, but we need to go back to the hangar. Time is running out." Go back? The mere thought sent shivers down my spine. I recalled the way I felt there, the coldness, the whispers. What if it was dangerous? "All I can say is, it's not what you think," he insisted, his expression becoming more desperate. "You have to trust me, but we don't have much time." The urgency in his voice made me hesitate. Part of me wanted to slam the window shut and call the police, but I couldn't ignore the part that was drawn back to that hangar, the need for answers gnawing at me. "Why should I trust you?" I narrowed my eyes, still unsure. "Because
"What's inside, and it's worse than you can imagine," he replied. "I can help you uncover the truth, but if we don't leave now, it might be too late." Everything inside me battled, fear versus curiosity. I could feel time slipping away. That thought alone pushed me toward the unknown. Just before I could respond, the man glanced over his shoulder again. "Please, they're coming. We have to move." As the words left his mouth, my instincts kicked in. I moved to open the window, adrenaline painting each movement with urgency. I didn't fully understand what I was getting into, but something deep inside urged me forward. Then I heard it, soft footsteps approaching from behind my house. Someone was out there. The moment I heard the footsteps, I felt a chill run down my spine. I looked back at the man, panic rising in my throat. "What do you mean they're coming?" "They know you found the note," he said, urgency thick in his voice. "We don't have time for this." I hesitated, but finally swung the window open, heart racing. The man quickly climbed through, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. We had to move, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread clinging to me. "What do we do?" I asked, keeping my voice low. Outside, the footsteps stopped. It felt like the world was holding its breath. "They'll check the house first," he whispered, glancing toward the door. "We need to get to the back, fast." Before I could respond, he grabbed my wrist, leading me toward the back door. I followed him, each step echoing in my head. I kept thinking about that note, the warning. What had I stumbled into? Once outside, I shut the door quietly behind me. The darkness wrapped around us like a blanket, muffling any sound. I felt the man's grip tighten on my wrist. "Stay close," he urged, scanning the area. The only sound was the rustling leaves. There was no sign of the person who had been walking behind my house.
I could hardly breathe, the quiet pressing in on me. "What is really going on?" I muttered under my breath. "I'll explain everything," he said, leading me around the side of the house. "But we need to move now. The hangar isn't far. Just follow my lead." I could barely think straight. I wanted answers, but fear clawed at my mind. What sort of trouble was I truly in? I cast a glance behind us, but saw nothing. Yet the air felt charged, like a storm was about to break. Just as we approached the end of the house, I saw a flash of movement. Shadowy figures began to materialize in the streetlight, slowly encroaching toward my home. My heart dropped. "They're here!" I gasped. The man yanked me forward. "Run!" We sprinted down the street, my heartbeat roaring in my ears. Each step felt heavy, like I was trying to outrun my own fear. The hangar in the distance, its silhouette both inviting and terrifying. As we neared the hangar, the man glanced back, his brow furrowed. "They're not just after the note, they want you." I stumbled to a halt, breathless. "Why me?" "Because you're connected to it all. The whispers, the note, even the hangar itself. They don't want you discovering the truth." I stood there, panic swelling inside me again. Had I been swept into something bigger than myself? I barely had time to process his words when I heard a shout from behind us. "Stop! You can't escape!" I turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, a flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The man beside me shoved me forward. "Inside, now!" Before I could fully comprehend the danger, we dashed into the hangar, slamming the door behind us. The darkness enveloped us, and I felt my breath hitch in fear and confusion. This was it. I had crossed the line, and I couldn't turn back. Then I heard it again, the whispers. They echoed through the air, swirling around me like a ghostly presence. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The man turned to me, looking more serious than I'd ever seen. "We need to uncover the truth before it uncovers you." That's when I felt it, a presence behind us. Someone was in the hangar. The air felt thick, heavy with the unknown. My heart was racing as I scanned the dark hangar, the shadows flickering in the dim light. I didn't want to believe it, but the feeling of being watched crept over me like ice. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. The man pressed a finger to his lips, motioning for silence. He stood tense, eyes darting around like a hawk in search of prey. I barely noticed the clutter of old tools and disused machinery. My mind buzzed with questions, but I couldn't find the words. Then, a sound, a soft rustling near the far wall. I turned, my breath hitching, anxiety clawing at my insides. The darkness shifted, and I squinted, trying to make out what was lurking just beyond the reach of the dim glow from a single bare light bulb. The man moved closer to me, drawing me back against the sturdy wooden frame of an old airplane. "Stay close and stay quiet," he whispered, his eyes narrowing. I nodded, though the fear in my chest felt like a lead weight. We had to make a decision, but I had no idea which direction to go. The rustling grew louder, more deliberate, and I felt the urge to scream build inside me. That's when a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall silhouette, just barely illuminated by the light. It lingered, watching us. I knew instinctively it wasn't one of the men chasing us. What are you?" I managed to croak out, my voice shaky. The figure remained silent, but slowly drew closer. I saw glimmers of something metallic in their hands. A weapon? My stomach churned at the thought. Suddenly, the man beside me shifted, breaking the standoff by stepping forward. "What do you want?" he demanded, voice steady despite the tension. For a moment, time stretched. The figure paused, then took another step forward, revealing more of their face. And that's when I recognized the person, a harsh familiarity gripping my chest. "Alex?" I blurted out. My heart pounded against my ribcage as the truth sank in. Alex had been my childhood friend, someone I hadn't seen in years. But that was impossible. Alex was supposed to be in another part of the country.
What are you doing here?" "Listen, it's complicated," Alex said, eyes darting toward the entrance. "They're coming for you, and we don't have much time. You need to know the truth about the note. It leads back to this place." The man's eyes widened. "You know about the note?" "I know more than that," Alex replied, turning to me, "and it's dangerous. You can't trust anyone." Before I could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the hangar, growing closer. I felt my heart race again, panic rising. "They found us," the man said, urgency lacing his voice. "We need to go now." I felt torn, my heart racing between loyalty and fear. I struggled to make sense of the chaos around me. I barely had time to process anything when I heard the creak of the door slowly opening. "Get down," the man shouted, pushing me and Alex towards a stack of crates. The next moment felt like a heartbeat stretched into eternity. I could see shadows falling across the hangar floor, those familiar footsteps entering, and I knew we would have to move fast if we wanted to escape this nightmare. The shadows advanced, filling the hangar with an oppressive tension. I squeezed Alex's arm, my pulse quickening as I ducked down behind the crates. The man positioned himself in front of us, shoulders tense, ready for anything. Our breaths fused into silence, each of us listening intently as the footsteps echoed closer. I could make out muffled voices outside. They were not just searching for us, they were getting organized. "What do we do?" I whispered to Alex, panic clawing at my throat. "Wait," he murmured back, his eyes flicking to the entrance. "They'll pass through. We need to find a way out." The voices became clearer, sharper. "Split up, check all the rooms." A heavy thud vibrated through the wooden floor as someone kicked a door shut. I glanced at the man beside me. He seemed to be assessing the situation, his jaw set. I wanted to ask who he was and what he knew, but now wasn't the time. If I didn't focus, we'd be discovered. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the other side of the hangar. The sound shattered the tense atmosphere. I jumped, feeling my heart lurch. The man turned sharply, eyes wide. He must have heard it too. "We don't have much time," he said urgently. "If we don't move now, we might not get another chance." I nodded, but a heavy dread settled over me. Just outside the crates, I glanced at Alex, his expression etched with anxiety. "Can you trust him?" I whispered. "I don't know," he said, voice low, eyes darting nervously. "But we can't stay here. Follow my lead." Taking a deep breath, I focused on the entrance. The figures were still outside, but I could hear their footsteps continuing in a sprint. "Do you think they saw us?" I asked. "Not yet," Alex replied, leaning closer. "Just get ready. When I say go, we run for the door straight ahead." As I braced myself, Alex slowly lifted his hand. I could see the light glinting off something sharp in his grip, a small knife. The sudden realization that he might have come prepared sent a thrill of adrenaline through me. "Go!" he hissed. We shot from our hiding spot, slipping low to the ground. Heart pounding, I followed Alex's lead. My legs felt heavy, almost like I was moving through water. The man was right behind us, and I could feel him propelling me forward. As we darted toward the door, I felt a surge of hope mixed with fear. Perhaps we could escape. But just as we reached the entrance, a hand shot out from the shadows and grabbed my wrist. I gasped, panic igniting as I struggled against the iron grip. "Where do you think you're going?" a voice snarled, pulling me back. Alex turned, panic flaring in his eyes as he caught my gaze. I could feel the world closing in. Who was this new threat? I felt the icy chill of dread as the man's grip tightened. Then everything went black as a door slammed shut behind us, trapping us in total darkness. I jolted awake in the pitch black, my heart racing. My thoughts scrambled as I tried to piece together what had just happened. The grip on my wrist had vanished, but the creeping dread hadn't. I pushed myself up against a cold, hard surface. "Alex?" I whispered, my voice cracking slightly. No response. Panic bubbled in my chest.
"Alex!" I tried again, louder this time, my words swallowed by the darkness surrounding me. Then I heard it, a soft rustling. I froze, straining to catch any sound that might guide me. My breathing quickened, and I felt the sweat on my palms. Was it the same group? Had they taken Alex? "Over here," the man from before. His voice was low but urgent, almost muffled. I followed the sound, cautiously moving in his direction. A faint light flickered, illuminating a narrow sliver as I neared the edge of the door. I pressed my back against the wall, my breath hitching. "Can you see anything?" I asked, trying to make out his shadowed features. "Just a hallway," he replied. "I think they're searching the hangar." My chest tightened. They were still close. "Where's Alex?" "I don't know." His tone was clipped, and I felt a wave of frustration. "We need to find him. I can't keep this door closed for long." I felt the familiar sting of panic, but pushed it aside. "Okay, what's the plan?" "Stay close to me. If we can get to the end of this hallway, there's a service exit. It might lead outside." "Right." I hesitated, gripping the edge of the door. I had to trust him. "Let's move before they notice we're missing." As we crept into the hallway, the tension wrapped around us like a vice. The light flickered above, casting eerie shadows against the walls. Every step I took echoed in my ears, loud and intrusive. My pulse raced as I thought of Alex, somewhere out there without me. We pressed on, careful not to make a sound. Just then, I heard footsteps in the distance, and my stomach dropped. "We need to hurry," I whispered urgently. The man quickened his pace, but the resolve in his expression faltered as we rounded a corner. The hallway opened up into a larger room, and a series of crates lined the walls, perfect for hiding. "Should we?" I started, but he shook his head. "Too risky. We can't stay here," he said, just as the footsteps grew nearer. Then, out of nowhere, a door squealed open, and bright light flooded into the room. I pressed against the wall, the cold metal biting into my back. A silhouette emerged, followed by a shadowy figure that made my blood run cold. "Check the supply room," one of them barked, the light shifting dangerously close to us. Did they find Alex? I thought frantically, anxiety pooling in my stomach. The man beside me held his breath, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, in the corner of my eye, I noticed a small window. Just beside it, there was a stack of crates leading up to it. "That window!" I blurted, pointing urgently. He glanced toward it, eyes narrowing, then nodded sharply. "Okay, let's go." We moved in silence, climbing quickly. I could hear them getting closer. I thought I saw a glint of something in their hands, maybe a weapon. Fear propelled me up each crate. I reached the window first, but it was locked. "Help me!" I gasped, panic flooding my senses as I glanced down at the shadows creeping closer. He rushed to my side, fumbling with the latch as I heard the footsteps almost upon us. Come on," I urged, desperate and breathless. Finally, with a loud click, the latch popped open. He pushed the window up, and cool night air rushed in. Just as I was about to climb through, a voice shouted from behind us, "Hey, over here!" Instinctively, I ducked, throwing myself through the window. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the fear that we weren't alone. Had escaped one threat, but something else lurked in the darkness, something I was not yet ready to face. The ground was rough beneath me as I landed outside, and I stumbled, catching myself just in time. I looked around, but it was pitch black. The only source of light was the faint glow from the base's windows behind me. "Are you okay?" The man was beside me, his breath coming in quick gasps. "Yeah," I replied, although I could feel my heart still pounding, the adrenaline coursing through me. "What now?" He was scanning the area, his eyes darting nervously. "We need to get out of sight. We can't stay here." "Where's Alex?" I asked, the worry clawing at me again. I didn't know if he was safe or worse. He hesitated, his gaze shifting to the shadows beyond the light. "We'll find him. We just need to keep moving." I nodded, forcing down the fear.
We darted away from the building, the night air cool against my skin. We crouched low behind a stack of crates, listening intently. I could hear muffled voices and footsteps still echoing behind us in the distance. "Which way?" I whispered, my breath shaky. "Follow me." He led me deeper into the shadows, moving quickly and silently. I grabbed his arm as we passed a flickering floodlight, instinctively drawn to safety. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the still night. My heart jumped. What was that? "Probably something they dropped," he said, though I could hear the concern in his voice. "We have to hurry before they realize we're out." We continued through the tangle of crates and equipment, the only sounds being our hurried breaths and the distant clamor behind us. But as we reached a clearing, I caught sight of something that made me stop dead. "That's the hangar," I gasped. My stomach twisted. It was the last place I wanted to go, and yet a part of me felt drawn to it. "Not now," the man urged, pulling me away from it. "We need to keep going. The service exit is on the other side." Before I could respond, I spotted movement near the entrance of the hangar. Figures, shadowy and ominous, were crowding around the entrance. I couldn't make out details, just their outlines moving quickly. Did they have Alex? Was he still inside? The uncertainty gnawed at me, but I couldn't let fear paralyze me. "Let's go," he insisted, pulling me in the opposite direction. We skirted around the edge of the hangar, my heart racing in my chest. But the noise behind us was picking up. "Why are they searching so hard?" I breathed, my eyes wide. "They must know something's off. Something's going on that we can't see," he muttered, glancing back. In that instant, a bright beam of light swung our way, and I froze. "We have to hide," I hissed, darting behind a utility cart. He followed suit as the light swept over the area,
illuminating the crates in the shadows. As we crouched, I began to tremble. "What if they find us?" "Then we fight back," he said sternly. He turned toward me, and I saw determination in his eyes. But before I could respond, the beam of light stopped. It was now focused on the hangar itself, and I could hear voices rising in agitation. Everything felt wrong. The air suddenly thickened with tension. That's when I saw it. A figure darting out from the hangar, fast and frantic. "Alex!" I cried out without thinking. But just as quickly as I shouted, I realized the figure wasn't him. The realization sent my heart plummeting. "Stay quiet," the man hissed, but it was too late. The shadows turned toward us. The figures were coming closer, and the dread that flooded through me was paralyzing. Then came a piercing scream from the direction of the hangar. The scream echoed through the night, raw and piercing, sending shards of ice into my veins. The air felt charged, heavy with dread, as the figures converged on us like wolves drawn to a wounded creature. I froze, instinctively clutching the man's arm tighter. "What do we do?" I whispered, panic flaring inside me. The shadows loomed closer, stark against the pale moonlight, their voices sharp and agitated. "We run," the man hissed. "Now!" Before I could process the command, he was already moving, yanking me along with him. I stumbled, but kept up, adrenaline pumping as we pushed through the chaos of crates and equipment. The figures behind us shouted commands, their voices mixing with the echoes of that initial scream, a haunting sound that sent jolts of fear coursing through my body. I glanced back, heart racing, and caught a glimpse of one of them, tall and menacing, their features obscured by the shadows. Something flickered in their hand, a glint of metal, igniting primal fear in me. What had I stumbled into? We weaved through the maze of crates, every corner turning into a potential dead end. "There!" the man shouted, pointing toward an opening at the far end of the yard, where darkness swallowed everything beyond. It felt impossibly far, but it was our only hope. We sprinted towards the exit, panic propelling us forward. I could hear the footsteps gaining on us, every crash and shout igniting my fear anew. My legs felt heavy, but I pushed through, the urge to survive giving me strength I didn't know I had. We reached the opening just as the world erupted behind us. The figures poured out of the hangar, a wave of shadow spilling into the yard. Just as we crossed the threshold, bright flashlights swept over the area, illuminating the chaos. I gasped, the cold wind hitting my face as we burst into the night. "Stay close to me," the man shouted, pulling me along. The darkness enveloped us, and I could hardly see where we were going as we dashed away from the chaos. Felt it then, something cold whispering at my back, urging me not to look. We raced through the terrain, running without direction, every instinct screaming at us to keep moving. My breath came in ragged gasps, each step pounding against the pulse of fear thrumming in my chest. After what felt like an eternity, we finally stopped behind a thick cluster of trees, panting heavily, pressing ourselves into the underbrush. I could barely hear the sounds of pursuit fading into the distance, the chaos of the hangar behind us swallowed by the night. "Did they see us?" I whispered, trying to catch my breath. "I don't know," he replied, still scanning the shadows, "but we need to keep moving. With all that noise, they'll know we're gone soon." "But Alex, what if he's still there?" His jaw clenched, and a shadow of worry crossed his face. "We can't go back. Not now. We need to get help first." I closed my eyes, trying to push back the wave of worry for my friend. There was something deeper going on here, a darkness that felt alive, and it consumed every corner of my mind. "What do you know about all of this?" I pressed. "Who are you?" His expression shifted, a hint of sadness flashing behind his guarded facade. "I can't explain everything right now, not here. But trust me, it's tied to the hangar and the whispers you heard." "Whispers?" "Something is connected to you in a way I can't fully understand." Fear and confusion battled within me, but before I could respond, I heard the distant sound of more voices. They were searching. "We need to go, now." He motioned deeper into the woods. I followed, heart pounding, fighting back the urge to turn back. But I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me, shadows lurking just beyond my vision, waiting to pull me back into the darkness. As we threaded through the underbrush, the reality of the situation began to set in. The hangar, the shadows, the screams. Would I ever be free of it? We stumbled upon a small path, and the man led us down, urgency in every step. "Stay close," he warned again. "We might have more time than we think, but we need to get to the highway." Just then, a malevolent force brushed against my thoughts, thickening the air around us. I glanced behind me, breath mingling with panic. It felt like the very essence of the hangar seeped into my bones. I didn't understand what was happening, couldn't make sense of the swirling chaos in my mind. Were the shadows real, or was this all a trick of the stress unraveling me? We finally reached the edge of the woods, the faint glow of distant headlights breaking the oppressive darkness. Relief flooded through me. We climbed the last ridge and emerged onto the empty road, but behind us the whispers grew louder, imposing shapes flickering at the edge of my vision. We dashed, breaths ragged, and my instincts screamed at me to keep running, but the man suddenly turned and pulled me back. "Listen," he said, eyes wide with an urgency that froze me in place. "Don't turn around." The sound of the whispering became clearer, as if the very ground throbbed with voices chanting my name, beckoning me to look. I didn't want to, but a part of me couldn't resist the pull. Before I could process it further, headlights flashed upon us. A vehicle rounded the corner, illuminating the dark. With a rush of adrenaline, the man yanked on my arm, and we sprinted toward the car. We reached the road, heartbeats racing against the sound of the engine. I prayed silently that whoever was inside wouldn't be part of the chaos after us. We reached the shoulder, hands raised, desperate for rescue. But as the car stopped, the driver's face lit up with confusion, half illuminated by the headlights. Then I heard it clearly, as if it sang through the air. A voice calling my name, not from the shadows, but from within the depths of my very being. "Run!" the man shouted, pushing me toward the car. But as I looked back, shadows danced in the headlights, cold and unyielding. I could feel them pulling at me, urging me to return, just as a chill wound around my heart. As I hesitated in the blinding light, questions still lingered in the depths of my fear. The whispers, the truth yet unwritten, weaving a tapestry of darkness that I still couldn't fully grasp. And as the world around us erupted again into chaos, I realized with a pang of dread that whatever had followed me wasn't finished yet.